Hey everybody, my name is Giovanni. How many of you all went to... Oh, you have a question? Oh, you want to talk the Constitution? How many of you all went to the convention this week? Wow, all right, very good. We had a lot of representation down there. I do have some. How's that?
Fred?
Well, anyway, so what I wanted to start with was just really kind of, for those who haven't been to the convention or do it, I just want to talk a little bit about it. It's this huge gathering, of course, of Republicans from all over the state. There were almost 9,000 people who paid registration to go to this event. There was over 10,000 total attendees. Thank you. All right. And they netted, $160,000, but you spent about $1 million down there. So it's a huge event, tons of people, very exciting, lots of stuff going on. But really what the whole point for that convention is to go and to select your SRECs, which is essentially your board of directors for the Republican Party of Texas. It's also to choose your chairman. And it is, of course, to create a platform. And so when people say, well, what does it mean to be a Republican? Well, what it means to be a Republican in Texas is someone who subscribes to the philosophies that are written in those planks on that platform. It ended up being 30 to 40 some odd pages. And everything from UN-related items all the way to local items. But these are issues that delegates felt that needed to be discussed. But at the end of the day, it's not law. What it is, though, is it's a message. It's a statement that you're all sending as a grassroots activist to elected officials and saying, hey, this is where we stand on these issues. And what we would like you to do is to follow those if you want to call yourself a Republican. Okay, yeah, please. All right, we'll start with the fact that Julie had the best quote, which is we won, okay, when it came to illegal immigration. I'll start with what we had before. Okay, which is in 2012, we had what was called the Texas Solution. And for those of you who were there last time, and even those of you who are here this time, you know there's a lot of confusion and a lot of chaos when you're down there. And there's a sweet spot somewhere. I'm trying to find it. And one of the things is that when we passed this, effectively as Republicans, is we passed what many would call amnesty light. Okay, because what the Texas Solution says is secure our borders. We're all good with securing our borders. It says modernize the Social Security card, right? Birthright citizenship, which has to do with the 14th Amendment. And the fourth one, which was again the Texas Solution, was to create an effective and efficient temporary work program. What that meant was that basically if you were here in the United States and you were here illegally, okay, you could go down to a federal office somewhere and you could start working right away, effectively cutting in line of everybody else and making all those changes. And while some may look at this and say, well, secure the border is first on the list, it wasn't first in the statement, okay? Because when this ends up getting created into law, they could say, okay, secure the border and create this guest worker program. We only have enough money to fund one of these. We're going to fund the guest worker program. So that was a lot of the problem with that Texas Solution. But it was supported primarily by two different groups of people. The first would be special interest and others who they want more people here in the U.S. so they can pay everybody a little bit less. So they can go and hire more people without providing them benefits, okay? And there's a second group of people who feel that, well, this will go and it will get more minorities, specifically Hispanics, to go vote in the Republican Party. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, which was a version of amnesty. Okay, it was a way to go and try and get more people here, and then the next step after that would be make them full citizens. So we go on to this convention here, and we fight, right? Because we don't approve of this. And it's a big deal, okay? Because if you're watching what's going on in Congress, Speaker Boehner and others, they say, well, Texas is okay with us coming up with some sort of solution like this. And we did. We voted for it. So what we felt that we needed to do was to go tell Congress and state legislators, no. We're actually not good with that. We want to make sure that you do two things. First of all, secure the border. First. Second, no amnesty, and we want to see some penalties, okay? We want to see penalties for people here. All these incentives that are driving people to come here illegally, we want those to stop. So once you've secured the border officially, once you've got all these incentives, get rid of these incentives and put in all these penalties, then maybe we can talk. And so what we had to do is fight. But all those same people that wanted to fight were still in the game. And so what we started to do, and there's just so many people that were involved in this. Of course, Julie and the Tea Party, Kelly Cannon, who got her 30 seconds here, Sarah Legbold, Brenda White, TJ Scott down in Austin, Steve Toth, what's that? Mike Olcott, Larry Carquez, Wade Miller. I mean, literally hundreds of people, Ken Emmanuelson and the Dallas Tea Party, all wanted to go and we fight this, but of course it also needed all of you to go be there at the convention and ultimately thousands of delegates. And so just like any other fight, the first step is you're going to go and tell people the issue, right? And so what we did is we started to explain to people through emails and through all sorts of other different ways. We started to say, listen, this is the difference between the Texas solution and what we want. Here's what the problem is with the Texas solution. So we did that. The second thing we ended up doing is we started finding candidates, these SREC candidates who effectively they're going to be running, and so we asked them, where are you on the Texas solution? And if we found out that they were for amnesty, they lost. Okay, I think we replaced 4 or 5 SREC candidates, and it really roiled a lot of them. Some of them had been there for a long time. But then I think what happened is kind of the people behind this were like, oh no, we may not actually win this, right? Because they were just seeing the numbers. There's then stickers. If you were there, you could see all the stickers and everything that people were doing. And it became, it became the story at this convention. I mean, there was a lot of other controversial items, some of which we're only finding out now, right? But during the convention, this was the main story. And what we ended up doing was creating an incredible organization, everything from text message chains to emails to red and green signs being held up to help delegates know how to vote. And what that meant was that we had the ability that even though there were some that were trying to mess with the rules, maybe change things up, maybe not be completely forthright in terms of what amendment said what, and people don't know the rules. But what that meant was we were able to organize and send a message to all these delegates very, very quickly, and at the end of the day, we got rid of the Texas solution. And I want to stop here for 1 second, because I have one second, is to talk about what that means. See, at the end of the day, the Texas solution was the message, okay? Was, listen, we're going to work with Congress to come up with some reform, some comprehensive reform. It didn't really actually even matter what it was replaced with, in all honesty, because just the fact that Texas solution lost was the message that was being sent. Now, what did we replace that message with? Well, secure the borders. First and verifiably. Nothing you can't get to step 2 until we've gone and we've secured the border, until we've gone and we've created this physical barrier with either infrared, with electric fences, drones, whatever it is. We're going to secure these borders, and that's the message that we're going to send. Then we're going to stop getting rid of some of these benefits that we provide people here illegally. And the first of those would be in-state tuition. As you know, here in Texas, we provide state-level discounts, the same we would for residents, for people who are here illegally. And so what we're saying is no. Remember, this wasn't even in our last one. So now what we're saying is get rid of those benefits. Let's focus on the real security, which is smuggling. I mean, every day through this border is everything from drugs, counterfeit money, weapons, children, okay, kidnappings, all this stuff is being smuggled. So let's make sure that we stop all of the smuggling that's going on. And let's stop with the sanctuary city deal. Okay? Yeah. We have laws in this country, and all we're saying is to enforce those laws and that everybody is equal. And if you're stopped, you ask for your driver's license. If you're here illegally, you need to be deported. And then the last one, which is probably the one that they were the most afraid of, which is to provide penalties for employers who knowingly hire illegal immigrants. secure the borders and install E-Verify, which is a system, an electronic system to be able to say whether you give them your social security number, and they're like, you know what, this is the sixth one of these I've seen today, you're not going to get hired, okay? So we're going to make sure we do that, and then and only then will we go on to the next step. So the message is, forget about what we said in 2012. We have a whole new world order, and it's about security. All right, so but that was awesome. I'm going to tell you right now, it was really cool. I didn't think that we'd be able to pull it off, to be honest with you. I really thought that given all the people that were on the committee and everything, it was all stacked against us, but it failed, what, 5,000 to 3,000 or something like that? It was 4,000. Yeah, we won by about 1,000 or so. It was huge, and you know, when you read the articles afterwards, you just know we won, okay? So that was good. But there's some other contentious items that I'll talk about until you go like this, okay? So the first one is, and you're hearing a lot about right now, because also sometimes what the platform ends up becoming is something that the Democrats like to attack us with, right? And so, you know, they already had their press statement out and say, okay, look at what the other guys want. And this is one that I think, obviously is getting a lot of media coverage, but I also think it's not necessarily what you're reading about. So if you'll bear with me, the first part of the plan was that, hey, we support the definition of marriage as a union between one natural man and one natural woman. And this is in our Texas Constitution, okay? So, you know, this one, solid, but the second one is which has gotten a little bit of publicity, is that we recognize the legitimacy and efficacy of counseling, which offers reparative therapy and treatment for those patients seeking healing and wholeness from their homosexual lifestyle. No laws or executive orders shall be imposed to limit or restrict access to this type of therapy. Okay, so why is this so contentious? Because the idea here is whether or not you believe that this lifestyle is either comes from nature or from nurture, right? Is this 3 minutes left? Wow, okay. So basically, the idea is that in California and in New Jersey, they have made it illegal for minors to receive this kind of therapy. And what we're saying is that we don't want the Texas legislature to come up with these laws, okay? So, I like not making laws, so this one should be pretty easy to work on. All right. Marijuana. Okay, so this was a big discussion during the session. The idea, and it went through a lot of different stages. Okay, so at the beginning it was legalization of marijuana. Then it's like, can we decriminalize marijuana? Then it was, should we have medicinal marijuana? And then finally they said, well, can we do research on marijuana? And all of those essentially got voted out. And I think the only thing that was left was using hemp for industrial purposes, okay? So if you step back and you look at this message, myself as a lawmaker, and listening to you as a delegate, I would say we're not going to be legalizing marijuana. I mean, obviously, that's not where anything is. Article 5 convention, this came up. There's a lot of, obviously, excitement about this before the session. And it went through a lot of twists and turns as it went through, but also what you're saying is that you want us to look at what it would take to do an Article 5 convention. And I'll be honest, I've got Mark Levin's book, I got the audio book, I'm going through all of the research myself, so I have time to go and look at all of this stuff, but the message is clear that you all want us to consider this. And life. Okay, I'll end on this, because why not end on life, right? So, we left with a very strong pro-life plank at the end of it, which is consistent with what we want, is what we said. But I will point out that there was an extra focus on this plank, when it came to the second part of it. So if you look at what it says basically from fertilization to natural death. And so what we saw in this plank, it was very strong on making sure that at the end of the day, if you end up in a situation or a loved one ends up in a situation, it's you and the family that get to make that decision, not a death panel somewhere else. I got one more. This is, this is a huge conversation that we're going to have, and we always have every session, which is, we have all this money coming in, what do we do with it, and at what point do we stop spending it? And so the conversation is about, what is the cap that we should use to determine how much money we have to spend and how much we have to either save or pay down debt or pay taxes. So I just want to talk a little bit about the fiscal concerns, that it wasn't all about the other stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, Texas is a great state because of making sure that we have just fiscal and social conservative values. So I thank you all for being there and for helping us all.